Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 5th edition of Bangalore on IT. I am Advait Upadhyay, MTech second year student.
And I am K. Parthiv, I am Tech first year, and we are the members of the IIIT-B Student Branding Committee.
I would also like to welcome the audience who are attending this online. Please feel free to ask any questions you have. We would take them after the lecture, if the time permits. So before we start, I would like to briefly introduce what is Bangalore on IT. It is a public lecture series with the sole objective of introducing eminent thought leaders who are working on cutting-edge research and technology to address the students, industry, and the public at large.
Now, I would like to invite our director, Professor Debabrata Das, to share a few words on Bangalore on IT and address the gathering.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are thrilled to have you join us for an exciting edition of Bangalore on IT. This lecture series traces its roots back to the early days of IIIT-Bangalore, where we embarked a journey of fostering knowledge, exchange, and intellectual growth. Originally known as Bang on IT, in 2002, it holds nostalgic memories for many of you. In January 2019, we revived this series with renewed vigor, renaming it Bangalore on IT. This transformation signified our unwavering commitment to the knowledge sharing and innovation. The core objective of this distinguished public lecture series is to serve as a platform for introducing you to the thought leaders leading pioneering research and innovation in expansive field of information technology and beyond. To our students and also invitees from different parts of the country about the online and also from the Bangalore in the audience, it is essential to emphasize the multitude of benefits that stem from the inviting industry and thought leaders to address you. These talks provide invaluable real-world insights, bridging the gap between the academic learning and industry demands. They ignite inspiration and motivation, enabling the students to visualize their future career more vividly. Moreover, they offer networking opportunities, opening doors to internships and job prospects, and also their vision about the nation. This interaction also nurture innovation, critical thinking, as students engage in meaningful discussion with the experts. It is a win-win situation benefiting both students and also the participants and also the exchanging the knowledge from the speakers who have the privilege to share their expertise and mentor the next generation of professionals. Today, we have the distinct honor of us hosting Dr. Pramod Varma, who is as a truly distinguished individual with a deep ties to the IIIT Bangalore as a co-chair of Center of Excellence in Digital Public Infrastructure and adjunct professor in IIIT Bangalore. We are genuinely delighted that he accepted our invitation to share his insights. Dr. Pramod is an outstanding thought leader in digital public infrastructure for human and also the ecosystem and also the upliftment of them across the globe. Thank you for being a part of this exceptional gathering, and let us make the most of these wonderful experiences. And thank you once again.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening words. Today, we have Dr. Pramod Varma with us. Dr. Varma is a remarkable individual who have made significant contributions in various fields, and his presence here today is an honor for us all.
Dr. Pramod Varma is the former Chief Architect of Aadhaar, which has successfully reached over 1.3 billion people. He also served as the Chief Architect for various components of the India stack, including eSign, Digital Locker, Unified Payment Interface, and Data Empowerment and Protection Architecture, all of which are currently operating at a population scale in India.
Dr. Varma played a pivotal role in designing India's digital health infrastructure, ABDM, vaccination and immunization infrastructure, CoWIN and DIVOC, and the Unified Health Interface.
Currently, he holds the position of Chief Technology Officer at EkStep Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to creating learner-centric digital public resources under Project Sunbird.
So without further ado, it is my honor to invite Dr. Pramod Varma to the stage and request him to share his valuable thoughts and experiences with us today. Please give a warm and enthusiastic applause to Dr. Pramod Varma.
You. That's good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So, a pleasure to be here, by the way. And no way I could have said no to the invitation extended by IIIT. So, thank you so much. And what I see here, unlike many talks I give, is a very, very young set of people. And that inspires me even more because you guys are sort of the next generation of what India is going to make. So hopefully, what I'm going to speak is not too technical, is not too complex, but you get a better understanding of what India has done in remarkably a short period of time. A decade is a very short period of time for a country's development. So you will probably get a better understanding of what India did. So my talk is in three parts. First part, what did India do in the last decade? The second part, what India is doing right now, which many of you can actually explore. If you're an entrepreneur, you can explore. If you're an innovator, try innovating. If you're a researcher, try researching around that. And I will actually end with the last part, where we could take this work to. And some of the very, very interesting new areas, especially in climate action and sustainability, which is a huge topic around the world because we are walking into quite a large trap. So we need to make sure that we reapply this learning and thinking towards sustainability and climate action as well. So I'll end there and I'll open up for questions after that. So this was the situation in 2009. In 2009, India, why 2009? 2009 is when Aadhaar project started, by the way. And 2009, India, most people had no bank account. So less than 20% of Indians banked. 80% of India did not have bank account access. So think about it. Today, all of you probably have bank accounts, right? So you take it for granted, that bank account. But 2008, the world had moved on, though. In commercial internet, as we know commercial internet. When did internet start? 2004, 5, 3, 4, 5, 1993, 1993, 1994. So we were already 15 years into the commercial internet. GPS was out. iPhone was launched. Android was launched. So the world is going through a dramatic change in the system, and India was still struggling to give bank accounts to people. So India was quite behind in that sense, right? But this is a study from 2020. 10 years later, 2020 study shows, this is a study by Bureau of International Settlements in Basel, which is central bank of central banks. RBIs, all the RBI and central banks go to them. And they watched our economic financial inclusion journey in India and said something remarkable is going on in India. We ought to study what's going on. Very, very unusual things are happening in India in terms of financial inclusion. So they studied that, and their result was fascinating even for us. And the study showed India would have taken 5 decades, 50 years to give bank accounts to 80% of the people. So think about it. In 2010, if we start giving bank accounts, in 2060, we would be still giving bank accounts. Makes no sense, right? 2060 is way too into the future and much would have changed. But instead, India took less than a decade, about 8-9 years. So we compressed a development cycle from 5 decades into a less than a decade, and everybody had identity and everybody had a bank account. So in a very, very short period of time. And this today means 1.38 billion people, that is 138 crore in Indian numbers, the system, have Aadhaar. And that's tremendous. How do we know this is useful? All of you have Aadhaar, of course. I assume all of you have Aadhaar. If you not, you should get it. Aadhaar itself is used 80 to 90 million times every day by people in the country. This is not counting when you use the paper Aadhaar, photocopies of Aadhaar, it's not counted. It's only counting the digital use of Aadhaar. That itself is 80 to 90 million every day. So you can see how much Aadhaar has penetrated. But the best part was that Aadhaar also allowed what's called electronic KYC, Know Your Customer norms. And electronic KYC cost was quite high for banking systems or mutual funds or capital market systems or insurance systems to bear. So they would have to do a lot of paperwork to complete your Know Your Customer process. But poor people are not good customers, business-wise, because they don't put enough money in the bank. And if you don't put enough money in the bank, you don't have enough revenue from the customer. So per user revenue is very low. So it is essential, it was essential for India to ensure we dramatically reduce the cost of opening bank accounts or cost of KYC. And that's what happened in India. India went from roughly a $20, which is 1,500 rupees roughly, KYC cost to 20 cents, which is about 15 rupees. So we dramatically reduce the cost of KYC for banking systems, insurance systems, mutual fund systems, so that they can onboard people digitally into their system, which is why Aadhaar is being used that regularly. Okay, you need to understand that. Because of that, in the last post-2015, there was a program by Prime Minister launched called Jan Dhan. And Jan Dhan was that everyone ought to have a bank account, right? Bank account is a connectivity, identity, bank account everyone ought to have it. And that drove a big, significant opening of bank account. Today, roughly about 500 million, half a billion, bank accounts are opened during that time. 500 million. And about 60% of that is women. Why? So, because women were the last one to have an identity proof. If you look at the property documents in the rural areas, if you look at electricity bills, if you look at phone bills, it's all in the man's name. It's not in women's name. That actually means they have no proof. If you have no proof, you can't open a bank account. So Aadhaar dramatically reduced what's called gender gap into the system as well. Okay, so remember, these transitions are very big transition, all happening in a short period. But at the same time, as you know, all of you are users of mobile data, I presume. Of course, watching cricket or YouTube or whatever everyone is watching these days. India went from 1 GB per capita per month. That means 1 GB of data used to be used by per person per month to 1 GB a day. India became one of the cheapest data plans in the world. But the best part, how did Reliance Jio, the new player in the telecom, acquire customers fast and expand their business? Because they used eKYC. They managed to acquire customers, 100 million customers in 6 months. Very, very large number of customers, geo customers in the beginning, and that created competition. And then Airtel and everybody else, other telecom companies also shifted to Airtel, eKYC. So if you go to get a SIM card today, you will not see the old form, which is literally about 8 years ago, or even 6, 7 years ago. They used to have something called a customer acquisition form, CAF form, 2-page form. They had to fill up a form with printed photographs. And the person has to come take a copy of the form, keep it safe for 7 years. 2 copies. Think about the cost. Every company was having the cost. They went all digital. So if you go to a SIM card today, nobody collects any paper, right? So India went paperless very, very fast. And that created, again, reduction of cost, increased competition. Remember, these are the advantages that consumers benefit. And in 2016, we launched UPI. The design of UPI started early as 2013, and 2014 was the peak time the Unified Payment Interface was designed. And 2015 was the pilot, which probably none of you knew. 2016 was the early launch. And then today, last month, UPI did 10.5 billion transactions. How do you compare that number of transactions? Roughly same as what MasterCard does around the world. So UPI alone, think about it. Look at the volume. It only in 7 years. 2016 is when we launched. Since the launch, we roughly do what MasterCard does for the whole world, right? And we think we are not even done. By the way, we think we are going to at least do 1 billion transactions every day, because we only have about 300, 400 million people in UPI, 350 million people in the UPI, in Aadhaar another 150 million, so roughly about 500 million people. But how many adults do we have? 950 million. How many total population? 1.4 billion. So we have a large expansion yet to do. So we are going to be continuing, accelerating this journey. But it was not just consumer elements that India was digitizing. Remember, all this was happening in parallel at the same time in India, during the same time. No country has seen multiple transformation coming together, and togetherness have a very, very different impact. When smartphone, internet, and GPS comes together, you get things like Uber, right? You get completely new possibilities emerge. Now AI also added to it, right? So you get to imagine possibilities beyond what you traditionally thought. So what is advantage of multiple transformation? You can combine them, and you get what's called combinatorial effect in the society. You can combine between them, and you can create newer solutions and products that otherwise we could not have done. And this is important to remember, right? So by the time we were also digitizing companies, businesses. Why? India is full of small, medium businesses, as you know, right? I mean, I'm not even counting the Pani Puri fellow on the roadside. They are not even a company. They are like a one-person entrepreneur, literally one-person company, right? It's not a company, it's an individual, literally doing business. But they are also doing business. But these are real SMEs, small, medium enterprises, as we call. The problem was that none of them was digitized. Their backbone was not digitized. So a couple of things we did when we did GST. As we architected GST, one of the most brilliant things India managed to do is we digitized their invoices. That means every invoice in the country being generated is actually computerized, digitized. And that's very, very powerful. Why? Because invoice becomes the reason. Invoice is a proof of trade, proof of business. And that's very, very important to create that proof of business in the system. Okay, so that was a part of that. And if you go on the highway, you will see FASTag. That was done at the same time. So that was done in 2016. All these were happening parallelly. 2012 was the committee. 2016 was roughly the design and launch. And post-COVID, of course, FASTag became everywhere. And when you drive, you can actually recharge, which is why you can use UPI to recharge FASTag, right? That's how you drive if you forget to recharge. At the toll booth, you can literally recharge instantly your tag and actually move on. But it is really, really creating what's most important thing. The cost to the business, cost to our logistics and transportation industry is very, very high when they have to stop on the highway many, many times. It's very, very high cost to the business. What does high cost mean? Eventually, it will show up in the price. That means you will end up paying more price if the cost to the business is high, because consumers will eventually pay for it. There's nothing called free lunch, right? So you have to pay for it. So it is important that we make ease of doing business, make the cost of doing business very low. When the cost we see it actually get transferred to better revenues and better products, choices, and cheaper products for us. And also, same time, in 2015, we launched DigiLocker. And DigiLocker, what is the purpose of DigiLocker? It's one of the most hot topic in the world. What India did with DigiLocker. It's called verifiable credentialing. That means today, when you go with your academic proof, your 10th grade, 12th grade, mark sheets, engineering degree certificates, or if you're a company, you get trade licenses and other proofs, marriage certificates, birth certificates, none of that document is verifiable. What does it mean? When you take that document, go to another party and show that document, then the other party will say, how do I know it's not fake? So the cost of verifying document, cost of repeated verification of document is our life. We see that every time. Cost of repeated verification. And that cost adds up. So what we are doing with DigiLocker, it started in 2015, and CBSE certificates are all actually on DigiLocker, of course, as some of you know. But now we are saying every certificate that comes to you should be verifiable, like your COVID certificate, like your vaccination certificate. The QR code in that vaccination certificate is actually digitally signed. What does it mean? If you show that to someone, they can actually scan that QR code and make sure it is an authentic certificate. It's not a fake certificate. And the Aadhaar has a QR code, your Aadhaar printout has a QR code, that is also digitally signed. So today we are starting to do what's called verifiable credentialing, but we are going to push this. And this is dramatically, today we only have 200 million users in DigiLocker. We think that's actually low. We only have 6.5 billion documents. We really think that is low. India is going to probably go to 100 billion documents and at least 600, 700 million using DigiLocker. Because that is when verifiability of the documents become pervasive. That means my proof of skills, proof of earning, proof of work, proof of who I am, the identity, what I do, all become verifiable. And that is very, very essential, especially when it comes to blue-collar and grey-collar workers in the industry, which is much of India, by the way. You're all elite in one sense. You are not part of that crowd, right? And India is also opening up data empowerment. As part of the data privacy bill, you also have the right to access your data. That means banks and mutual funds and financial institutions and healthcare, hospitals will start giving that data back to you. But you may ask, don't you get your data today from the bank? You do get bank statements, don't you? But today you get a bank statement in a PDF form, probably in your Gmail account. The problem again is that you take that proof of salary slip or a proof of bank statement and go to a bank for a loan. What do the banks say? I don't know whether it's real. So what would they say? Go print it out, get a seal from the bank in every page and come back to me. So it adds cost to consumers, it adds cost to the issuer, the bank statement issuer, and adds cost to the verifier. Whoever is collecting this paper with all the seals have to now manually verify if everything is correct. So this cost has to be dramatically reduced. What's exactly what this is happening? Today, an account aggregator network, this is new. This is like UPI in 2016. So if you have not heard it, it's okay. You will hear it soon. You will get all your data, financial data, and subsequently healthcare data and academic data in your fingertip, but in a verifiable form. Remember, verifiability is the key. And that is what is transforming India dramatically. Not only consumers, not only why you can do a Digi Yatra. Have you used Digi Yatra in the airport? If you use Digi Yatra in the airport, if you have gone to the airport, if you use Digi Yatra, you can walk into the airport with no paperwork. Your face is the proof that you are a traveler. And the possibility for consumer, similarly, we have a possibility for businesses. Businesses today struggle to get lending, for example, loan from the bank. They don't get it. So it is important that we are able to actually extend access to capital to all the businesses. And the cost of issuing loans, cost of paperwork, cost of verification is very high today. So they are unable to give loans to people. So who do you think giving loan to the banana or a vegetable vendor on the roadside? Have you thought about it? The lady who pushes that cart with vegetables or bananas, where does she think she getting money from to buy in the morning so that you can sell it to you? It's from an informal money lender. And informal money lenders charge very, very high interest rates. That means you and I can get access to money from banking, but everyone else on the road gets money not from formal systems, not from banks. They get it from the roadside. And that's not fair. That's absolutely unacceptable to a country like us. We have to bring everybody and provide access, democratize access. And that's what India is doing with this. And I don't know whether you have been tracking this effort. Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, went ahead and showed this in last year's Davos, is of what India is doing with Indian language and voice-enabled application. This is completely an AI-based effort that we are democratizing, and we have some of those teams sitting here, and who are actually building voice-based interfaces. Why do we think voice-based and in natural language interface is key? Because only 100 million people can read English. That itself is fight. 200 million maybe can recognize words and symbols. 1.4 billion people we have. So we have no way we can include a large population into a digitized society and give them a complicated form to fill in the banking system. You and I can probably fill an internet banking form. No one else can fill. So it is essential that we create human language interface and voice interfaces so that access to information and access to products become much more freer and easier for people. Otherwise, it's a huge barrier. Language is a huge barrier to economic development. And India is doing this to actually open up that barrier. This year, you might actually see UPI on local language. You can speak to UPI apps and say things like, Mera bill bhar do, electricity bill bhar do, for example. And actually app will say, oh, Mera, my electricity bill, okay. That's what you're speaking. Bhar do means pay. And they would actually recognize and say, okay, I'm pulling up your bill. Here's a bill. Please enter your PIN to pay. That would be very cool. That would completely start transforming. Now you can reimagine the possibility. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to be writing apps, you could be writing a completely voice-based apps. Think about it. With no forms and no traditional interfaces at all. And that's what India needs. And that's what much of the world needs, by the way. And now this goes to part 2. So this is what India did in the last 10 years. But what is India doing right now? Even to supercharge further is actually this issue. We are seeing what's called a platform economy coming to the end, almost. What is platform economy? This is what's happening. Why do you think Uber drivers in this summer, if you take Uber drivers, first of all, they don't come. in India, right? Everybody cancels, right? Or nobody comes. They would say, how much are you getting, sir? Then I'll come straight, right? They'll just cancel the ride. Or in the summer, they would not turn on the AC. Why don't they turn on the AC? Because 16 hours of driving, with commissions being paid, they are unable to make enough money. So it is important that we start asking, as a country, as a society, we start asking basic questions. How do we deal with fragmentation and monopolies, large monopolies? Very important. We can't just get digitally colonized. We need to make sure that we don't get into that trap, right? So it is important that we look at both. So today's model of platform economy works like this. If you look at trucks, there's some aggregator. If you look at taxis, there is small aggregator. How much, for example, one of the largest ride-hailing company in this country does less than 2% of whole of urban transport. For example, I'll give you a sample. Delhi Metro alone does more transaction than the largest taxi hailing company in this country. Just one metro. Forget Bangalore, Mumbai, buses, auto rickshaws. We have a lot more to do. That means we have very, very few people. So aggregation is still leaving a large population, large possibilities outside the aggregation. Same thing with food and delivery. Same thing with everything else. But what if we can imagine this? And this imagination is very, very, we have seen it in the past in the internet days, but we are seeing it again today. What if we can create an open network of all the taxi and auto rickshaws and metros and so on? What if you can book from any app, any taxi? What if you can do that? It dramatically opens up everybody's possibility of access. And that is a very, very key part of what we are experimenting in India right now. And one of them is Namayatri. I don't know how many of you have taken Namayatri. You should try Namayatri. It's a world's first experiment of creating what's called a peer-to-peer mobility transport. That means auto rickshaw driver has an app, you have an app, you can actually discover the driver nearby, and you can book that auto rickshaw, and you can pay directly, and the entire money goes to the driver with no intermediary in the middle. And that was an interesting idea. 3 years ago, people said, oh, why should it work? It may not work. How will it technically work? It won't be economically correct model. But today, our auto rickshaws in Bangalore, the unions have shown that 130,000 auto rickshaw drivers have signed up in the last 1 year. In less than a year, 130,000 auto rickshaw drivers, and every day 100,000 rides happen in Bangalore alone. 1 lakh rides every day on a rickshaw using this peer-to-peer network. First in the world, absolutely first in the world. And this has woken up many, many parts of the world as well, okay? And we are doing in Kolkata, by the way. We just launched in Kolkata. If you go to Kolkata airport and the airport taxis, you can book. And we have started, we already have it in Kochi, and we'll soon have it. This is very early days of UPI. You will see this exploding. That means if you have a Yatri compliant app, like UPI app, any app, you can book any metro, any taxi, any auto rickshaw, anywhere in the country without any net platform in the middle. It's a peer-to-peer, right? Very, very powerful. And that's why we managed to, in 1 year, we did more than 12 million rides and that much of money, $21 million in 1 year, drivers made with no commission in the middle. Think about it. It's very, very, very powerful transformation that's going on. And ONDC is the next one, right? ONDC is happening. If you have heard it, good, because it's coming. ONDC creates commerce network, open commerce network. That means any buyer app, you can buy food from a Paytm who don't know who the restaurant is. Somebody else on the other side is actually serving. So it's an open network that allows any buyer app to any seller app. And yesterday I saw that, I posted on my Twitter. Many self-help groups mean women entrepreneurs in the villages, in many across the country, and artisans around the country are now directly selling it to you without any platform in the middle or a commission in the middle. That's really powerful, right? To aggregate. That's extremely powerful transformation. Again, first in the world we are doing. And this is not just India. What is fascinating is that this idea you called peer-to-peer networks using an open protocol and the open source effort called Beacon Protocol is going around the world. We have many projects in Europe, in Africa, in Brazil, and very soon in US and Mexico, in the North American continent as well. Why? Because the platform economies have shown the monopolization and fragmentation remain. And many countries are actually waking up to that reality and creating an open network instead of a platform. It's like electricity grid. Anybody can produce and anybody can consume. That's what electricity grid does, right? It's a very powerful imagination, but a digital grid, commerce grid. That's how you imagine. And this is exactly what internet has shown to us. By the way, this is not new. How does internet work? Internet is not a platform. There is no one big server called internet. Internet is a network of many millions of nodes. But how do they interconnect? Using an open protocol and standard, set of standards that connect them. HTTP, HTML, these standards that actually create them, unify them. Same with telecom network, by the way. The reason why you and I can pick up an Android phone on an Airtel and call somebody in the US who might be using an iPhone or maybe on an AT&T network and instantly transport voice is because there exist standards and protocols between networks. These networks have shown at humanity scale, we can create networks, humanity scale. And platforms have never shown to go at that scale. And that is the inspiration we have had. And so if you look at what we are doing with DPI, you will see this unlocks in India's journey very unusually. What is another thing catches our thing? Much of our work, DigiLocker, UPI, or ONDC, is not really heavily funded by government at all. Who is making them successful? Entrepreneurs. So it is like a highway, UPI is like a highway, but who is driving on the highway? Private players, private entrepreneurs who are innovating, whether PhonePe or GPay or any of these new apps in ONDC. So if you are an entrepreneur, you can build new innovations on these public rails. So very well, one of our CEOs said, it's public rail and private innovation. Think of that way. That's exactly what is the power of internet. And that is because India is an extremely entrepreneurial country. We had 1,000 startups in 2016. We probably have more than 100,000 startups now. And this itself is probably outdated. That means entrepreneurial energy is flowing, which is very important. Government cannot, neither money-wise nor capability-wise, cannot solve everything for you, everything for the society. Only entrepreneurs can solve. But entrepreneurs need a playground. The playground has to be created. Policy playground and technology playground. What did internet do? It created a playground. Internet was not a product. People built product. Innovators built product on that. And that's imagination you should have, mental model you should have. And that's why this brings beautifully, India is bringing this trifecta together. The right policies, right internet-like infrastructure, and all of you. Entrepreneurs who you will turn into an entrepreneur, who will innovate subsequently. All of you must imagine, why is it key for us? Because of our scale and diversity. One app cannot solve India's problems. We are not dearth of problems, by the way. We create problems for ourselves. We have lots of problems. So the only way we can solve these problems at scale is to to make diversity thrive, diversity of innovations thrive. And that's why we need this combination to work out really well. Now the third part. But where are we going with this? India is significantly influencing the idea of Beacon Protocol, idea of open network, idea of digital public infrastructure, DPI, as the G20 presidency. Together, we created the vocabulary with every other country. We will call this DPI, right? That's very good. Now we call everything DPI. Means it's an infrastructure thinking, it's not a solution thinking. Build infrastructure, entrepreneurs will build solutions. And one of the most popular products here called Zerodha, and our CEO stands up and say, without Aadhaar and DigiLocker and eSign and UPI, I could not have built what I built. Because now I can combine these 4 products and actually expand my market and give you systematic investment plans, mutual fund products to many more people, millions of more people than otherwise we would have done. So expanding access to much larger country, but we can actually go much beyond. And that's where we see this tremendously complex problem staring at humanity, right? And these numbers and the implications of climate change is, I don't think people have comprehended very well at all, and everyday people. We still throw junk everywhere, we still throw plastic everywhere, all our roadside. We still don't know what we are doing to our planet, right? It's not in our head that you're destroying it, right? You just, as human species. So this is very, very important that we seriously reimagine how do we create rapid climate action. And what we are showing, we have an effort with some of the leading universities around the world on sustainability and climate, where we are applying the same principles of digital public infrastructure to compress the development cycle, create exponential innovation, and actually trigger a change in the system by the solution makers, right? And this complicated, multidimensionally complex thing cannot be addressed any other way. And this is very important to understand. And these are the 6 areas where India is saying we must do these 6 necessarily, not sufficient. It's not sufficient, it's necessary condition. So we are saying if you don't know where to start and end with climate, because we don't know, frankly, everybody thinks it's a problem, but nobody knows what to do. Really complex, because a very complex puzzle. Climate is a very complex puzzle for us. We are suggesting, and Nandan Nilekani, for example, had put out a video talking about these 6 in a very brief video. Now we are starting to expand and actually say we could do this actual actions, 6 actions. 1, create open sustainable energy networks. Do not try to create closed loop energy networks. Try to apply the Namayatri thinking, ONDC thinking, UPI thinking to energy, and allow energy to be produced and consumed and exchanged completely free and decentralized. And this is very, very key. Why is it important? Even more important, we are going to have EV transition, energy, EV, electric vehicle transition, that is coming very fast to us. What does it mean? We are going to have every school bus, every city bus going to be batteries on electricity. What does that mean? School buses with batteries we are going to run twice a day or maybe thrice a day. What do you think is going to happen to the rest of the time? It's going to be parked. What happens when batteries are parked? It dissipates energy and waste. So you keep on recharging. Like our batteries in the house, you have an inverter. All Indians have inverters because we can't reliably depend on the grid power. And the energy is wasted. Energy is wasted and we keep on recharging. What if we can actually collate all the available batteries and give it back to the grid? We have an actual experiment going on right now. In India, by the way, and in Europe, 2 places, to actually create an open network for energy interchange. Very, very powerful idea. We should do that. Second, dramatic efficiency in asset transfer, and credentialing. DigiLocker extension, proof of who I am. Am I a farmer? Do I have a proof? Did I plant 5 trees? Is there a proof? All these are broken today. There is no proof. Proofs are on paper. Paper is not verifiable. Paper is costly. The problem with that is that if I actually plant 10 trees and I can get carbon credits, if $20 come down my pipe to me, I only get $2. Because the cost of that transaction is so high, bank and intermediaries and verification agencies and audit agencies and everybody else is keeping all the money. Because they have to verify everything, no? Verify, and the farmer gets $2. So how can we use digital credentialing and asset verification structures to allow dramatic cost reduction in carbon cycle? And that's something which we are working on. And third, circular economy. What is circular economy? Recycle and reuse engine. Bangalore is full of microbreweries. We drink beer, lots of beer, I suppose. So we have lots of microbreweries. Where do you think the waste wheat product is going? Where do you think it's going? Nowhere, on the roadside. Unless I have found some particular buyer bilaterally, I have discovered a buyer who wants to buy my wheat output from my microbrewery. So what is happening with our circular economy? Oh, why do you think Delhi is choking right now? It's because farmers burn stubble. Why do you think farmers burn stubble? If you ask the question, because it's not financially viable to cut properly and transport it and do what? Farmers say, I don't know, it's going to cost me a lot of money. It makes no sense for me to cut it properly and I'll just burn. So unless we create an open network, why is the power of open network? In the open network, every actor in the open network can do one thing really well. So if there is a transportation company, and if there's a recycle company, and if there's a biochar company, for example, I can convert this waste into a biochar, which I can actually oxidize and create carbon back to the food on the soil, into the soil. We can put it back. But farmer can't do this alone. Or a tractor company can't do it alone. Or one startup who is creating, the waste to something useful product cannot do it alone. So we are creating an open network called circular economy, open network for circular economy, into which people can discover each other and transact each other with each of them doing one thing well. And this is an extremely powerful global phenomenon. That why don't people recycle? It's a cost eventually. Okay, and a little bit of laziness and lack of understanding, but I can assume habits can be fixed, but it has to be still economically viable to make it. And the fourth one, climate responsive urbanization, very hard. In Bangalore's traffic, Bangalore's smoke situation, honking, everything, all the growth, very much harder problem to solve, but there are some efforts that are actually starting to reimagine what does it mean to spread the cities much more and going beyond. And post-COVID has helped us, so some of these will get corrected itself. And this is another one of the largest, and India is leading in this. India moved, because of our Aadhaar, because everybody has a bank account, much of India's G2P, what is G2P? Government to person payments like scholarships, subsidies, fertilizer subsidy, food, cooking gas subsidy, your LPG cooking gas subsidy you used to get, all these are coming directly to people into the bank account. G2P allows what's called targeted payments, either for a regularly targeted payments like pension, or when a tsunami hits or a flood hits. Government should be able to target funding and resources to people. And India has brilliantly built this layout. By the way, when COVID hit, US was actually writing manual checks to people. India moved $4.5 billion to 160 million people instantly. No writing checks, with low cost, direct money transfer. So building these money rails, highways, are very, very powerful and much of the global islands. By the way, many islands, if you speak to Maldives, for example, or some of these islands, you know what do they worry about? they cease to exist in 50 to 80 years. The island may not even exist. It'll just go down under the sea. Imagine the climate response is no more a joke. Half of Kerala will go. So it is very, very important that you reimagine the possibilities of reallocating a targeted resource and money transfer for India. This is very key. And the last one, continuously, this is never ending. When world goes through transitions like this, energy transition from an IC engine to EV, energy transition from traditional oil-based gasoline energy to alternate, more friendlier energy sources. Or AI hits you. Or many transitions that are together hitting humanity, we have no choice but to reimagine. In fact, our largest manufacturers in India, for example, automobile manufacturers, are reimagining what it means to reskill thousands of workshops, automobile workshops, and people who are repairing all the automobile. 100 years later, we are changing the technology fast, and we need to reskill them. So reskilling and livelihood, gig economy and livelihood, is huge. And India is launching one similar effort we have in Brazil. So we have Brazil, and India is leading an effort called an open network for skilling and livelihood. Very, very important for us to be able to do it. And this is slightly more complex, but the real combination is powerful, is when one network can combine with other network to create opportunity. For example, an energy network where somebody is aggregating batteries can now combine with a financial network to get a better loan or access to capital to support my business. It's a very, very powerful. Otherwise, you imagine everything being custom built for everything. Here in India, because of the multi-network effect, we are going to combine them, and the transformation is barely beginning. And this is also triggering much of our ability to observe and provide better services. And researchers and all we should like it, as the side effect of digitization is creating observability, or in the case of health, for example, surveillance of disease spreading, disease surveillance. We have all the time, because COVID showed humanity that a biological attack, or whether natural or organic or created, is real. And it could completely grind an economy down. So we need to be able to monitor, track, and actually respond. And that needs data. And you need research and modeling around it. And data today is not natural output. Data is extracted today, like oil. Data should be a natural outcome of our digitization. That's what we hope to do. We have an open data conference coming up in IISc in the next 2 weeks. We hope to push much more of this. And that's what we are seeing in India. And let's stop there, saying the domino effect has begun. And if you think you have seen with UPI and all, Aadhaar and UPI, you, as an American guy said, you ain't seen anything. You are going to see a lot more transformation in the coming. And the beauty of that transformation, it's not done everything by the government. And government is only laying the playground for all of you to reimagine when you come out of the college, wherever you are interested. If you are interested in agriculture, let it be. If you are interested in artisans, helping arts and community, let it be. Or if you are in energy or any other person, work in the industry to reimagine the possibilities for India. And this is the only way India is going to actually get to 10 trillion and beyond. Okay? So thank you so much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, sir, for your informative and insightful talk. Now the stage is open for the Q&A. Please feel free to ask any questions you have, and the nearest committee member will provide you the mic.
Okay, so my question, Dr. Pramod, thank you for the excellent talk. So we are dealing with two big problems here. One is of inclusion, which I think DPI and all the technologies around it are solving very miraculously, very beautifully. But the other problem is of climate change. You touched upon both of them. And it looks like they conflict with each other. So the more people we get on board into the economy, the more difficult we make the problem of climate change to solve. How do we handle that?
That's an interesting perspective. Okay, that's not my perspective, but interesting perspective. Interesting perspective is that if you bring lot more people into the economy, not the top 10% of the economy, imagine the whole billion people can all transact, do all the things. Wouldn't it aggravate the climate problem? My argument is that technology, first of all, is not a solution. I just want to make sure that we understand this. Technology is merely a tool to solve something bigger and better, okay? So we use the technology as a lever to create inclusion. So you're right. So we brought inclusion and affordable access to 1 billion people, which is good because we can't leave people behind. But I don't think it is aggravating climate at all. Frankly, I think there are the core issues of climate. If you think of the what you call biggest, like a 80-20 rule, 20% of what affects 80% of the problems are actually not related to digital economy at all. In fact, I would argue that if you had a bank branch in every village to actually bring banking, we would have created a lot more energy confusion or unhealthy, because we have to have AC offices, we have to have all those things. But we brought banking on the mobile today with no physical infrastructure that is needed. So it's a way of perspective whether you want to use technology in a sustainable way, still create inclusion, or you want to look at technology as merely a means to sing without worrying about sustainability. Now what is showing all of us today is that if you don't apply your sustainability brain along with inclusion brain, we have a problem. So that I agree with you, that everything we do, we must wear the sustainability hat, whether clothes, products, transport, traveling around, we must do that. And that requires a lot of habit changes as well, by the way, individual habit changes. All of us take one car and go, right? We do, because we can say last mile is not solved, so I have to go in the car. So we have to collectively come together. It's not a one-person change, but we could change. And Bangalore, weirdly, in one sense, I always believe, Bangalore, we are blessed with a beautiful weather. At least we are not yet screwed up. I mean, okay, etc. It's still very good. We could be a beautiful cycling city, like many European cities. Many European cities have dramatically changed. There's no cars on the road, man. Literally, they have moved. It's beautiful. They're saying everybody is cycling. Lot more. And Bangalore is actually quite amenable because, we are not high humidity, high heat system, right? So, but it needs a collective effort, and it needs youngsters to rise up and say, this is not acceptable, we need to really change. And it's not about protest, it's by making habit changes. Making habit changes and bringing solutions. So, interesting perspective, but I think we could do both. Yes, Sridhar, here, yeah, and then we have Mike there. Yeah, I'll come back to you, yeah. Yes, Sridhar, yeah.
See, the traditional problem with any kind of open network infrastructure compared to closed or semi-closed infrastructure has always been complexity in coordination, reliability, scalability, and so on. And we have seen that over a period of time, history has shown that most of the open networks seem to fail. For example, Linux being taken over by IBM, XMPP, the open protocol, has been morphed into a proprietary protocol by WhatsApp, and so on. So do you think that this DPI is going to stand the test of time and that it will not repeat the history in the future?
We really don't know. So in the sense, couple of examples. Real question is that would the open network eventually close itself out and monopolize itself by few players? Very interesting. I urge researchers to create modelings. That's the kind of work you should be doing. And create models, apply game theory, try different models and see what policies or what levers we could play to continue to keep it open. My gut feel says that India will keep it open because we also have a very socialistic sort of hat. We are not, America would have been, maybe it would have been very hard because I think it's a very different society. Fantastic, and all there the market does beautifully well. Nothing wrong, right about it. But Indian model, I think we are a mix of both capitalism and socialism. So hopefully we'll keep the network open, but we'll still allow a UPI game. And UPI had the lever. I don't know whether you know the 30% cap lever. We kept applying so that one company doesn't take over UPI. Right? So we had all these levers, but I urge researchers to play. Brilliant question. I look forward to research output and suggestions for us to be able to actually implement. Yeah.
Yeah. My question was kind of pretty much the same as what Professor Sridhar asked. So I'll extend that question a little bit more. Right from the 1990s, there has been this tug of war between decentralized open networks and centralized trusted networks. And so my hypothesis already for why this happens, why decentralized systems fail, is increasing bookkeeping costs. That is, there's a lot of bookkeeping cost at the individual end, lack of trust, because it's an open network, you don't know who is on the other side, and lack of convenience. So sometimes proprietary solutions give a lot more convenience and packaged, and you can sue someone if something goes wrong. And so
Excellent.
if we can solve these problems and keeping the open-ended and decentralized flavor of DPA, I think
Actually,
that's
you
what-
answered this brilliantly yourself.
Yeah.
So the question is this: do we go from a centralized platform where everything is controlled, everything is packaged, everything is contracted, supported, to a fully decentralized where I don't know whether other party is even reliable? How will I buy something from somebody? Who is this person? If I pay, will they ship the product to me? How do I know? And who do I complain to if the product doesn't come? That is why India is not doing the Web3 style sort of Wild West-ish, idea. It's very, very important. India is playing that middle ground, what we call a 3-layer architecture. Open technology and open network, layered with a facilitative and transparent governance. ONDC, for example, is adding ODR, online dispute resolution, shared reputation between all the parties. So there's a reputation ledger being built. And of course, SLAs for all the participants who are participating. So it's not the people who are participating are actually contracting, not instead of bilateral contract, they contract with a network facilitator called ondc.org. That's a not-for-profit company, like UPI. Banks deal with NPCI, National Payment Corporation of India. Instead of everybody doing N is to M bilateral, right? Because that doesn't scale. So we are playing that middle ground to create trust, reliability, not technology reliability of the system, SLAs, customer disputes, and grievance handling and reputation. So we are making sure that is actually layered well so that we play. But his question still remain, would it still eventually be cornered into one or two players dominating? That's an interesting question to ask. Continue to ask. Yeah.
My name is Samir. Just wanted to know, after eKYC and DigiLocker and Digital Aadhaar, what's next in store for India? And when do you think we in India will reach a stage where all our important documents would be digital rather than analog, like passports and driving licenses, etc.?
Okay, very good question. When I wrote the 2015 DigiLocker, 2014, I wrote actually DigiLocker vision paper, I was hoping it happens faster. But I was naive, because the human habits and the systemic habits of some trust in that paper and collecting a photocopy of the paper is deep. Now we'll wonder, why are we cutting down trees? So it takes longer gestation period but I think we are potentially at that inflection point with 200 million users in DigiLocker. Almost everybody now starting to say, this morning I realized we are actually converting all the e-stamps, e-stamping processes, government stamping and all into digital. Bank guarantee papers are going all digital. So we are starting to see all coming together to say, maybe there's an inflection, and I'm hoping, although I would have liked it to be faster and earlier, by 2030, 80% of our paperwork, 90% of our paperwork should have been completely digital. That means we get digital, we can print if we want, no problem. And because inclusion is key, not everyone might have a smartphone, but I can take it to somebody else and they will accept digitally, and rather than saying, no, give me the original Aadhaar, right? Please stop asking that, right? So it's one of those things. Right? You could do that.
Hello.
I'm really hoping 2030 will happen. But by the way, there is an effort in IIIT, where we are right now, to create global digital credentialing stack. And it's on the way already. So you should see in Q1 an announcement from this institute announcing that product that will actually provide that capability not only to India DigiLocker, anyway we should push to many countries, many more countries. And this is one of the most asked, by the way, because every human being goes through that friction of original paper, losing the paper in flood, or, that's why poor people keep a lot more papers in very carefully, because it is a very much an asset to them. So I hope we do it faster. All of you should support it as well, Samir. Thank you.
Hello. मेरा 3 question है actually में. My first question is that if you selling a shirt or same shirt I am selling on Amazon and platform is mine, like for example Amazon is mine, my platform.
Yeah.
So which thing I would promote for the platform? Your product or my product?
Almost your product.
Okay. So right now, what is your thinking about ONDC? Because right now ONDC is something like that going on. Like ONDC you publish on Paytm, Amazon or Swiggy or something other platform. So it's my platform, then I not good commission from that your product. So I will not promote your product. So what is your thinking about that? You already built so many platforms like UPI, digital payments and e-money also. You are providing technology. So why are you not thinking about the platform also?
No, we are actually thinking about platform. So by the way, ONDC is not a platform. ONDC is a network of many, many platforms. So the model we are shifting is from uni-platform, single platform economic model to multi-platform economic model. So multi-platform means to sell my product, I don't need to depend solely on the dominant platform only. That because if I depend only on the thing, then the bargaining power is not with the product maker, it becomes with the platform maker. Because without the platform, I can't sell the product. Nobody will discover me. I can't. So to discovery, to make open discovery and open access, we are basically saying this. You as a product maker, let's say you are a weaver, you are making a good product. You should be able to put it on any platform, and because you can put it on any platform, on the other side, anyone can discover your product. One platform cannot charge undue charges to you. That means if one platform starts charging 30% commission, for example, I can say as an artisan, I can say, okay, if you charge 30%, I'll go to somebody else who charges 20% or 10%. So it's not about zero commission. It is not at all about zero commission. It is not at all about killing innovation. It is about creating equity and multiplicity in the system so that you are not tied with only one. It's like saying, imagine you only had BSNL. We would have been waiting 10 years for a phone connection. Or one Airtel. The same thing would have happened. It's as simple as that. Why don't we have just one bank or one telco?
Okay, thank you. My second question is that what is your thinking about the government application integrate with AI ML side also?
Very good. So there are two parts to it. There are government applications like taxation portal, if you are in a local city government, you apply for water connection, you register your property. So two questions you can ask. One, how can we make those systems be efficient, faster and easier for citizens to interact? The second question you can ask is, as a government who creates policy making government, not system building government, policy making, what policies can we trigger to create lot more democratized AI innovation in the country? Then we have to ask different set of questions. What is stopping entrepreneurs from developing AI today? What else can we do? So one of the example is a voice one. We decided if every entrepreneur, for example, if PhonePe, Swiggy, each of them have to go collect language, voice sample data from across the country, they will never innovate. It will be too difficult for them to innovate. So what did government do? As part of the Bhashini mission, created open data sets and open models, AI models, and said, okay, now that data set is given to you, you should be able to create voice-enabled food ordering like this. Please do, is what we are saying. So there are two different purposes, okay?
My question is that already government building like Narendra Modi application integrate the old state policies or all those stuff. So it is possible that on application or something else, integration of AI or something, because already government working on it.
Frankly speaking, okay, I represent an open source, quite like you guys, technology community. I live in Bangalore. All are techies. We are all techies. One of the questions I can definitely tell you, while government will build some reference applications, they cannot build deep, complex, sustainable innovation. It gets costly for them because of the procurement models. They are paying taxpayers money to build it. So it gets difficult for them. So it is essential that government build the underlying infrastructure, what's called open APIs, Aadhaar API, UPI API, and allow innovators to build a lot more applications. Generally, that model works for our diversity and scale. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Take care.
So we have the last question from the online attendees.
Okay.
Admiral KB Mehta says, major problem is data security in all of this.
Yeah.
So are there any tech solutions based efforts in this direction at Apex level?
Very, very good question. I was actually surprised that we did not ask this question. Cyber security is at most critical when you bring 1 billion people to digital society. First of all, digitization cannot be stopped. That's not the way to respond to cyber security. One day to say, don't digitize. No, that's like going back 50 years. Nobody will go back in time. So we are digitizing. So the real smarter question to ask is that what can researchers, open source community, and innovative products do? What can we do to create high security APIs, cyber secure APIs, and architecture patterns? And a couple of them examples I'll give you. And in fact, IIIT product called MOSIP implements many of this in the identity. Is one, keep the data federated, decentralized. Rule number 1, do not centralize data. Centralizing data as second rule, do not capture what's called minimalism principle, which is why Aadhaar is the only identity system in the world that captures 4 elements, 4 data attributes, right? Very, very simple. If you don't have data, there is nothing to steal, right? So that's an even better principle. And the third principle is that make sure data at rest and on wire during exchange is cryptographically strong. And the fourth one, make sure access controls and access to APIs, access to people, what's called a trust no one architecture. These 4 patterns are applied everywhere, but we need better firewalls, better AI-driven innovations in firewalls, because rule-driven firewalls are starting to fail. We have to create a lot more products from the industry. So I look forward to both research and industrial products to help. We are not going to stop digitization. But so we better work on cybersecurity design. So thanks for asking that question.
The floor for Q&A session is closed now. I would like to thank Dr. Varma again for the wonderful talk.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I would like to request our director to present a small token of appreciation from our end to Dr. Varma. Please welcome them.
Of course. Yeah, thank you. Look at that. Thank you so much. Yeah.
As we conclude, we thank our director, deans, registrar, CAO, CFO, Swati Sharma ma'am, classroom support, outreach team, security, and the housing staff.
We would also like to thank the entire branding committee members for organizing this event, starting with Pawan Karthik Reddy, Ayush Tiwari, Jippali Prabhas, Uttam Hansraj, Niharika Suri, Sai Jagdish, Sriporna Das, and Shivek from Chayachitra. Thank you all for your keen participation in the event.